As we get more election results into the Eyewitness newsroom, we want to get analysis of what we are actually seeing as well.
So joining us is Tony Smith, professor of political science and law at UC Irvine. Professor Smith, thank you so much for joining us today. Let me just ask you broadly, what are your impressions of how things are going this evening?
Right. Well, I think things are going exactly like most people thought they were going to. It's a very close race. If you dig down a little bit into Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania to see where the votes are left to count, the Harris campaign is probably feeling pretty good about where they are with those three. They're very much within shooting distance. The Harris campaign's got to be disappointed in North Carolina. Ironically, the storms probably helped Trump's share of the vote there because they actually did a get out the vote on the ground effort in North Carolina after the hurricanes. Georgia, Trump is ahead right now, but he's almost the exact same number of votes he was ahead of Biden when you may recall Georgia flipped to Biden. I think Arizona, the Harris campaign's in great shape because most of the votes that are left to be counted are in Maricopa County in the larger Tucson area. And you're going to see that Trump isn't where he needs to be in Arizona at this point to carry the day. Of course, Nevada, we have no results from at all. I think the Maine and New Hampshire, those are going to get called pretty quickly. Virginia's now been called. There's not a lot of mystery. A lot of the networks have spent a lot of time talking about Virginia and talking about Iowa, but you have, in the end, they go the way that we expect them to go. So this is going to be close. I don't think anything is really that different than what the polls told us. I don't think the polls were particularly well done, but I think that they were done well enough to let us know it was going to be a close campaign. In the end, if Trump somehow wins Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and Arizona and Nevada, and holds on to Georgia, it's going to be a pretty sound victory. But if you think, is today more like 2016 or more like 2020? At this point in the night in 2016, it was pretty clear Trump was going to be president and Hillary Clinton was not. And in 2020, we weren't really sure what was going to happen. But if you dig down a little bit and you see where the votes left to be counted in the so-called blue wall states, I think they look pretty good. Minnesota has already flipped back with a Harris lead. Nevada's kind of a wild card. We'll see. The closeness of the race in Virginia is probably attributed to how important it is to have a governor of your own party, because they can do things like choose how many voting machines are in one precinct or another and how long do people have to wait. There was a school district in Pennsylvania that was acting as a voting location, and the superintendent of schools there is a Republican and an advocate for Trump. So he was testing the fire alarm at the school where the votes were happening every 15 minutes. So a court intervened and told him, you got to stop that. You can't do that. But your governor can matter a lot. And in Virginia, there's a Republican governor. They stripped maybe 100,000 people in the last 2 weeks off the voter rolls. Obviously, all of those wouldn't have voted, but maybe 50,000 of them would have. And who knows how they would have voted, but they weren't stripping people out of Republican districts in Virginia. So I think we have a long night ahead of us still. The uncertainty carries over to the Senate, probably less so to the House. But if you kind of eyeball, it looks like the Democrats will narrowly take the House back, and the Senate is probably going Republican unless John Tester can pull out once again some miraculous vote turnout, particularly in the native lands in Montana. Otherwise, you're going to have a really close Senate, 51 Republicans. The guy in Nebraska who's going to win is an independent, but it's a real challenge for him because if he doesn't caucus with either party, he won't be on any committees. He'll get a terrible office. He won't have much of a staff. So whoever he chooses to caucus with, he's going to have to wear that party brand in 6 years if he wants another term. So I don't know how long he'll be an independent. He may have to choose. And if I were going to bet, I would bet he would choose to caucus with the Republicans. So we may have a flip for whoever the next president is the House is going to be controlled by the Democrats, and Hakeem Jeffries will be the Speaker of the House, and the Senate will be controlled by Republicans. Now, the interesting thing is going to be if all of the Republicans had said the vice president had the right to kill off electoral votes and should have on behalf of Trump, it'll be interesting to see if they still believe that when Kamala Harris is the vice president and Trump is the president-elect, if that happens. But it's very early. Everybody should take a breath, keep waiting for the returns to come in, especially the blue wall states have a long time to go, or a long ways to go. Arizona should wrap up kind of soon. We should be able to have a really good idea. And Nevada, we're not going to know till tomorrow at the earliest. And it's possible we won't know Georgia for a day or two.
Wow. All right. Well, Tony Smith, thank you so much. That's great insight. And it keeps us glued to the results. We really appreciate you joining us today.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.